This weekend, Ryan's dying in dumb ways, Andy is switching dimensions, and we track down the real Dark Souls on the 64. I'm Ryan.
I'm Andy.
And this is Weekend Rental, episode 193. All right, welcome back, everybody, to a very holiday-themed episode, I guess. Not so much that we're theming it after the holidays, but this is landing right before Christmas for all of you, so warm holiday wishes from us. Andy, how have things been? I'm sure hectic as it's been for a lot of us this time of year.
Right, yeah. Our big family Christmas was this last weekend.
Oh, you get it over with.
Yeah. So got that over with. My dad also had his 80th birthday at the same time.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So used to be, the holidays were really busy, but now on both sides of the family, it's like, well, we moved it, so now there's nothing to do. But how about you?
Yeah. There's something wrong with that, though, because then you can just be low key around the actual holiday itself. Yeah. I don't know. It feels like it's been hectic. We haven't been like super busy, but it's just been like, got to get this thing done, got to get that thing done. Winter is here, so now like, get shopping done and you want to hunker down at home. So we've been keeping busy and keeping warm. Can't complain. It's interesting. I was looking at this agenda as I was trying to figure out what I was going to talk about on the podcast, and I abbreviated some of what I could have put on there, but like we've been watching a ton of movies lately. Like,
oh, really?
A lot of movies. So most of the stuff I've been bringing is movie related because we've been kind of hanging out indoors as a family, doing that, playing board games, kind of getting ready for Christmas. And I think we're almost there. I think I want to say holiday baking. Well, I don't want to say, I know for sure holiday baking happens on Saturday. I think a couple last minute things to pick up, mainly because they have children or one who couldn't write a letter to somebody. So that guy's got to get informed. So yeah, we're kind of getting there. Yeah, work's been crazy, so I'm looking forward to a few days of PTO and just getting away.
Yep.
Which is, this time of year, I feel like at most places you work, you might as well just write off pretty much from the 15th to about the 5th. Because not a lot's happening. Because everyone's on vacation. Everyone you work with as a vendor is on vacation. So
yeah, it's kind of like playing chicken with your job with PTO, right? Because it's like, well, I should use PTO for all this,
right?
But nobody's clocked in or checked working in when they're there anyway. Yeah.
My plan, because we get paid for half of Christmas Eve day, and like my full plan is to like open my laptop and start setting up the charcuterie board. And like that's probably the biggest achievement I'll get done that morning on the clock. I mean, I'll look at emails, of course, but yeah, it'll be interesting. I've had an interesting week with like a vendor. I won't get into like the logistics of what like I'm doing with this vendor, but like I reached out to a company like inquiring about their product, right? So like instead of a normal company these days where they just have like a, hey, book 30 minutes on my calendar, they don't give you that. They just give you like a submit a form, we'll email you. So I guess somebody emails us, asks us a bunch of questions that just like don't really add up. We answer them. They come back, add more questions. And I was like, hey, how about I just like set up a call with you so we don't have to do this bull crap? They're like, sure, we can do that if you answer these questions. I'm like, okay. So I answer those questions, reposting the other questions. Then they tag somebody else in and they're like, how about you give us some times you'd like to meet? I'm like, here's 3 times across 3 days that could work. And then they're like, okay, let us know which time. All of those are good. And I set that up. And then the following day comes around, well, today, and they don't show up to the meeting or the time I suggested. And then like 30 minutes after, they're like, I missed this. How about the other times the rest of the week, which were also in the email chain? So I just repasted them. And they're like, that day doesn't work. How about Friday? I'm like, no.
Oh my gosh.
That doesn't work for us. So then 8 emails in, this new guy who just suggested this Friday time, like reverts to like, I want to get to know you better. How about you answer these questions and we move forward? And I was just like, I'm done. Like I am done. Like I don't like if this is what you are like on the sales pitch, I can't imagine what you're like when we've paid you and we're now live on whatever you sold us. So, and it's a I'm not going to name the name again, but it's a name brand company in the space and I was just like I can't. Like I can't even anymore.
That's amazing.
So,
Wow.
yeah.
So do you think it's just like they're going through some CRM that's just like
That's what I'm hoping.
boggling it all? Yeah.
Yeah, but it's the worst I've ever seen, like by far. And I work with a lot of like I do a lot of this in my role, and I was just like, I just can't imagine. I think part of it might be they're like the type of platform that I think relies heavily on their platform being integrated in other things and like run through APIs. However, that's not a good look. And if I run across somebody else in the space who's running you in the background, I'm probably not going to want to do it. So,
Yep.
yeah.
Huh.
So that's been my week. Actually, it started last week. And I got to the point on Friday where I was like, I'm not talking to this person until next week. And then it's been 2 days of that. So,
Wow.
yeah, adulting. So, yeah, I'm at the point where I'm just like ready to check out. I got Friday off. Next week's basically a wash. I'm just over it.
Yep. Yeah, I think I'm taking all of next week off all the way to the 1st. So,
Nice.
yep.
Yeah.
That'll be nice.
I got the 2 days leading up to the first off, but I didn't do anything next week because I don't know. Other people want it off. I know how quiet it's going to be. Not going to
Yeah.
nothing.
That's the thing. Like you're not doing anything anyway, right?
Yeah, nothing productive.
Yep.
But speaking of nothing productive, let's talk about some of the. Or we'll start off with one of the movies. We'll start with two because they're tied in. I'll just lead into my movie watching before we get to the other stuff that's gaming related. But I watched a couple of holiday movies. I don't know if you've paid attention to what's coming out around here, but there's a couple of new Christmas films this year. One of them, I want to say it's a Hulu or a Netflix or Disney. I don't know which platform it's on. I saw it on Plex, but there's the new Jack Black film, and it's Dear Santa. And the whole premise is a dyslexic kid writes. I'm dyslexic, I guess. He writes a letter to Santa, but he's dyslexic, so he spells it Satan, and his Santa list goes to Satan. And then a la Jack Black playing Satan, Santa Satan steps in, and yeah, it's what you'd expect. So it's like, this demon cosplaying as Santa, trying to like help harm a kid who's like this hopeless, desperate nerd, struggling through whatever middle school hell he's in. And yeah, it's a pretty good film. Like I haven't seen or heard a lot about it, but I could see it being one of those things like Elf, where in a few years, like people are going back to
it's going to come back. Yeah.
Yeah. It's very solid. Jack Black does incredibly well. The child actors they get in this are great all around. There's the story arc that involves Post Malone, which I find a little bit questionable for the age, but apparently Posty's very big with middle schoolers. I don't know. He's in the film, but yeah, it's pretty good. Ben Stiller does make an appearance, so I have to like knock it down at least a slight peg because I can't stand that man. But given his relationship with Jack Black, it's understandable, I guess.
Yeah.
At least in the cinematic universe.
It's a lot of it's that type of movie where a lot of his buddies kind of show up type thing.
Not even like he's really the only one. And I don't know why, but yeah, like Jack Black he's not Jack Black as you would think. Well, he is as you would think him, but not really. Like he really leans into like the demon character pretty hard. So like he's still, boopity boop boop boop, Tenacious D Jack Black, but not as hardcore. And again, like the kids just kind of steal the show, or at least the main kid who's, trying to make good. The whole thing is the demon comes in trying to like, well, I read your list, but I didn't read the whole list. I don't have a bunch of time. Like, he's like, he realizes quickly the confusion that this kid thinks he's Santa. And then he's like, well, I'll grant you 3 wishes. I'm better than Santa. You know what I mean? Like, and then, the third wish, of course, coming at the cost of your soul. But That's basically the plot of the movie, and then there's a dead sibling involved. You can kind of figure out how this whole thing goes, but it's an enjoyable ride.
Yeah.
Recommend watching it with the kids. My wife was bawling by the end of it. I was
Huh.
like, "You knew it was coming." I was like, "You saw it. Like you knew exactly what was going to happen."
Huh.
So, I don't know.
Isn't the pick of destiny? Isn't that like saving the soul from a demon too, or something like that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually not that far. That also had Ben Stiller, so yeah. It's Kyle Gass is not in it though. Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Maybe
Huh.
after the whole touring fiasco
Yeah.
recently, he was. Yeah. Although this is probably shot way before that, but yeah, it looks it's a good movie. I recommend it for the family. I guarantee you it's gonna be better than that Minecraft movie that he's in.
Oof. Yeah.
And then again on Plex, because I'm not gonna go to the movie and see this thing, but that Red One movie that is out now. For anyone who hasn't seen that, it's a holiday movie, the big blockbuster in theaters. I don't know if I'd call it a holiday movie. I'd say a movie studio has a contractual obligation with The Rock and probably I forget his name, but the guy who played Captain America, and they're like, well, we have these two people. If those two characters were in a movie, what would it be? And then can we sprinkle some Santa on it? And that's basically this
Ooh.
film. It's a big Michael Bay explosion type, fits those characters, buddy, good cop, bad cop, cop dramedy or dramedy. Yeah, it is a dramedy. It's a drama and a comedy sort of thing. I don't think it's even really geared towards kids. I don't know that I would like let young kids watch this. It's a movie that did not need to be made. I certainly didn't need to watch it. Had I not gotten it for free on Plex, I don't think I would have watched it. Well, I know I wouldn't have. Pretty forgettable. And it's, of course, it's like 2+ hours long, you know?
Oh. Yeah, and that's kind of what I took from like the trailers and stuff, that I was like, this just does not seem like it's
Yeah.
geared toward kids, which should be like the holiday movie thing.
Yeah. And there's a lot of
And-
big name actors. Even like the supporting characters are well known people. But I feel like it's one of those things where it's just like somebody called in a favor. They all have contracts, like holiday movies. Let's do it.
Yeah, it seems like I think it might be on Amazon Prime now.
Oh,
too.
that could be, yeah. That
I
would
don't
make
know if
sense.
it's an Amazon movie or not, but it just seems like one of those like Netflix where they got Ryan Reynolds for 3 movies and they just got whatever
Yes.
scripts and came up with a movie, right?
It's better than whatever that Ryan Reynolds, Will Ferrell thing was last year. I will give it that.
Okay.
The only thing I really took major issue with was the guy who played, I forget the actor's name. Someone's gonna be yelling at us. Listen to this. The guy who played Captain America.
Chris
he's-
Evans, yeah.
There you go. He plays like the deadbeat, distant dad stereotype. So at one point in the movie, he goes to pick up his like early prepubescent kid, and typical movie fashion, like, you know, pulls up deadbeat dad style with the beater vehicle, like backfire, pop, pop, pop. It was my car. It was the exact same Trailblazer that I drive. I was like, fuck you, movie. It's bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, it's paid
Well-
off. Maybe I don't want a car payment. Don't judge me.
Have you seen Deadpool 3?
No.
Okay. Well, the Honda Odyssey van makes a
Okay.
pretty prominent character in that movie, and yeah, they
So
make
we're
fun of
both
that a good deal.
degenerates, is what you're
Yep.
saying. Yeah. Okay, good. At least I'm not alone. Felt very
Yep.
bad because his windshield was perfectly intact. Mine is not. But you know, it doesn't backfire. So I guess maybe it
That's
evens
true.
out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You don't see that too often anymore. Like if a car's backfiring, there's the modern cars don't do that too often.
No, yeah, that's true. It's a very late 80s,
Yep.
I think. But yeah. Well, that's been my movie watching experience. What have you been up to?
I've been playing a game that's almost a movie.
Oh, I know where you're going.
Yeah, Indiana Jones. In some cases, you are playing the movie, which is pretty crazy.
And this is like pretty much the only thing Xbox has had going for it in like 9 months, right?
Yeah.
People seem to like it. How do you like it?
I think it's great.
Okay.
Yeah, they got it's pretty crazy that they have Harrison Ford's face in it, and it looks pretty close to how he looks, and the voice actor they got does a pretty good job of it, of sounding like him. So it's pretty cool that they meshed all that stuff together to give you that almost authentic experience.
Sure.
And it's kind of set in between different times in the movie, so you can kind of bounce off and reference different things. But also it's Indiana Jones. You can take him anywhere, right? And have an adventure. So
Where is it in the timelines though? Like, is it
I
listed for you?
think it's after Raiders.
Okay, so the good timeline.
Yep. Yep. But yeah, they start you off with a kind of a pretty cool prologue. And then they take you to a few different places. One of them was the Vatican. I think I'm in Egypt right now at the pyramids.
Sure.
But they give you a nice like hub, kind of like really detailed, semi-open world area, and it's packed. It's very detailed. It's got like pickups and secrets and a whole bunch of stuff everywhere. So you really kind of get to dive into, if you're at the Vatican, you really dive into the whole area.
Okay.
Do all the different side quests, find all the secrets, climb everything, that you can, basically.
Do you kick open a door and there's an altar boy and a priest with his robe down? Or
Not quite. I don't think they
Okay.
touched that. Which, yeah, I mean, I guess
Pun intended?
I mean, I guess when you have Nazis in the picture
Sure.
already,
Bad times.
I mean, it does pretty heavily go into like, Catholicism. Like they're pretty in bed with Mussolini at the time.
Sure.
At this point, so like, they're definitely not like the good guys in this. At least most of them.
Now, like, I've installed this because I was excited about it. I haven't had time to play it. And then I saw like it was a Bethesda thing, right? But it is an action adventure game, not a like RPG heavy style
Yeah.
game.
Have you played the Wolfenstein games lately? Any of those?
Yeah, I mean a long time ago, but yeah, so like that. I
Yep.
forget that they do stuff like that too. Yeah.
Yep.
True.
It's those developers that
Sure.
did this.
So
So
more
it's
traditional gameplay.
yep. It's very much action. A lot of melee, like picking things up, even
Yeah, he
like
can't use
throwing punches and
guns.
stuff. He can, but that's kind of lame, right?
Yeah. Only if
They
he's got a
take a lot of
fever.
bullets. Yeah, that's true. He's too lazy
Yeah.
or want to be done that day. It's kind of bummer. Like I kind of wish they would have got Harrison Ford to do the lines. Could you imagine how like grumpy he would have been through all of that?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, though. Is I suppose like, well, I mean, I guess it's not true. He just did that most recent movie, but yeah, his delivery is different. I feel like than it was during the peak of these films for sure. So,
Yep. Yep.
what does it do like in terms of pushing the hardware? Like, is I've my boss played it a little bit, and he's like, I thought it would look better. You know what I mean? And I'm like,
Oh,
well,
really?
I'm like, I've seen clips. It seems pretty good, but also maybe I
Yeah.
could understand that because we're technically late life on this console. So
I can't speak too much to that because I just got my new PC. So I've been playing it on that, kind of trying to max that thing out, and it looks pretty nice on that.
sure.
So yeah.
Probably is the best experience I would think, right? Like you're not having limitations with type S versions and like PC.
Right.
They probably allow you to max spec stuff.
Right. Yeah. I think the only time it really like bogged down is if like I turned every single ray tracing thing that I could on, and it was like, maybe don't do that. But
How many hours do you think you're in so far?
ooh, probably 10 or 15. I'm wondering how many areas there are. There can't be 4 at the maximum, I would think.
Sure.
Um,
So
not including the prologue, but
is everything a big open world, like explore the area, find the objectives, or is there like some linear pathing stuff?
once you get into like the quests, there definitely are like kind of Tomb Raider-y type things where it's like,
Sure.
okay, now we're going down and into this tomb and we're, doing all these different secret and doing puzzles to flip switches and secret doors are opening, that type of thing.
Right.
And there's probably 4 or 5 of those in each area. So, and those are pretty impressive and pretty fun too. So,
Yeah, it's kind of nice to have like, I mean, I like games that give you choice and freedom, but it's nice to have something that's like really scripted, like detailed run. You
yep,
know what I mean?
yep. And there's a little bit of like Hitman in there where
Oh, sure.
it's kind of like it's stealthy and you're picking up things and throwing them at them and stuff like that. But also you do pick up disguises along the way. So like later on in the Vatican, you have a soldier's uniform. So all of a sudden you can kind of just stroll right into the encampments, right?
Nice.
Later on. So that part's pretty nice where, you kind of switch up the disguises and stuff. But
Yeah, it sounds really cool. I've been eager to check it out. I think hopefully over this weekend I finally get to jump in and and do it a little bit. It's honestly like one of the most exciting things I've seen as far as games this year in quite a while. So
yeah,
certainly for
yeah,
Xbox, you know.
yeah. Well, yeah. I guess maybe we'll get to the Game Awards stuff later on. But I mean, if this qualified, I would imagine it would have been up there, or at least nominated. And considering I don't think there's a single other Xbox thing in that whole thing, they probably could have used that. Like,
Yeah.
come on, guys, release this like a month earlier. I don't know.
Yeah, that cutoff is weird. Like they should almost just do the Game Awards in January and then I don't know. But I guess like the way the cycle works for media, but
Yeah,
yeah, well, we might as well get into that. Did you watch, or were you unfortunate enough to have watched the Game Awards?
I did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know when it started. I think I got there at least an hour after it started, and I threw it
Okay.
on. Yeah, I, I still question like it if that's a Game Award show because like it's just continued to be the thing where it's like, well, we're gonna do this like musical act or like trailer release, and then in the 20 seconds I have between things we're announcing, we're gonna like breeze through all the categories and who won
Yeah.
uneventfully and to no applause. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's so much stuff that you could skip. Like, I don't understand the
Like all
musical
of Snoop
stuff.
Dogg.
Yeah, I don't understand why that's a draw, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's that many people that were going to tune into that, like had it on and be like, this is boring. Oh, Snoop Dogg, never mind, I'll keep it on.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I haven't heard gin and juice enough in the last 35 fucking years. What the fuck? And I like how they pictured it as new music and needed like 30 seconds of an okay song. And then went to gin and juice. And I was like, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it continued to be just like the Gong Show that I feel like it's turned into. It's not about the industry; it's about announcements.
Right.
Really surprised and cautiously optimistic about the amount of stuff that like, for some reason, Sega and Capcom decided to like put money and time into. Because I guess
Yeah.
Capcom, I feel like that makes more sense since the Monster Hunter stuff has like started printing money for them. Like they probably feel like they have the financial backing to like maybe take a not major win, but the stuff that like Sega's putting on, I'm like, I still don't like. I still don't think that stuff's gonna work out for you.
Yeah, Virtua Fighter. I mean that's big other countries, I guess.
Sure,
I mean, in
but
Japan,
like
it's
another
huge.
Sonic Racing, it's like, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
tempedly excited.
Yeah. I So this, if you're talking about all of the announcements, like this one was almost made for me. Like every single
Sure.
thing that they released was just like, oh my gosh,
Well, yeah,
this
because
is
it was
amazing.
everything you'd loved in like the PS2 era that like everyone forgot about.
Right.
Yeah, I thought it was great too. But I'm just like, not everyone's a 40-year-old gamer. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
who remembers Okami? Nobody.
So my dog, I just got my puppy not long ago. It's white. And I brought up the
Are you telling me
possibility
you
of
named your dog?
Amaterasu
Okay.
or Okami. Well,
Yeah.
my cat's name is Cammy, so you can't do Okami and Cammy. So I said Amaterasu, and then she's like, "What? What is that?" And I'm like, "Oh, never mind. It's from some old game that nobody's ever going to know anything about, right?" And then
Gets
now they
announced.
they announced a sequel to it right?
Yeah.
A couple days later.
Yeah. That one's wild. Is it Onimusha? Is it the Capcom like
Yeah.
survival feudal thing? Well, let's just take a minute there. Like, it was so like 2003 video gaming because every trailer, like, well, not every, like 75% of those trailers opened up with a feudal theme and a protagonist with a sword. I was like,
That was
what are we
weird.
doing? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to it, but like, this is like what I would have expected generations ago. Like, it's just so wild.
Yeah. I it wasn't not that long ago where everybody was craving that. They were like, when
Right.
is Assassin's Creed going to do a feudal Japan? And
Yeah.
now it's just like everything is feudal Japan again.
Yeah. And there were like a couple FPS projects thrown in there, but like they weren't the focus like they would have been
Right.
5 years ago. I do think the hype over that like Shadow Labyrinth, like quote unquote Pac-Man reboot is like the lamest and dumbest fucking thing I've ever seen. Like, okay, you made a Metroidvania and you like slapped a little like Pac-Man figure who follows you around loosely. Like
Yeah.
that, like you didn't make a Pac-Man game. You made a
No.
Metroidvania and your Namco Bando or Namco Bandai Namco so you're like, well, we'll just slap some Pac-Man on that shit. Like, fuck that.
Yeah, that's a little weird.
That game will probably be fine, but like to call it a Pac-Man game is a bunch of bullshit.
I don't know if that's related to, I mean, this is the other thing that I'll get into later, but Secret Levels is that Amazon show.
Sure.
There's a
Yes.
Pac-Man episode that's very similar to what that looked like. So I don't know if that's like piggybacking off of that.
Okay. Yeah, that
But
could be.
yeah, I mean the one that probably surprised me the most though was that somebody is giving money to let the Last Guardian and the Shadow of the Colossus guy make another game.
I missed that one, I think.
Yeah, that was Epic Games is letting him make another game, and
Do
like
they know it's going to be 12 years before it gets released?
exactly, it doesn't even have a name.
No. Oh, that's
So
good. 20 years? Okay. And we'll see
yeah,
it on the PS like
yep,
8.
yep. So I'm excited for that, but whenever that comes out, who knows?
I'm the guy who owns multiple copies of Ico, Shadow of the Colossus, and The Last Guardian, and I've played 0 minutes of any of them.
Oh,
So
yeah,
on my to-do list. But
they're tough to get into. I would say. I mean, they're a little pretentious.
yeah.
And
Well,
they're a
you
little
need
obtuse,
some of that, I guess.
abstract. Yeah.
I thought like for the most part, other than like I'm with you. I was very excited about the resurgence of what I would have called, B tier gaming. Like there's a lot of IPs and stuff in there that I'm excited about. I just think like ultimately there's going to be a lot of financial bombs in those things and we won't
Mm-hmm.
see follow-ups to any of them, which sucks. Um I did think them giving Game of the Year to Astrobot was the right call. Like I think there's been a lot of outcry online. I saw from the one developer, like they've been pissed, but like I don't know. There's so many times when like they just give it to like up your ass like projects and games, and like and the thing is like they would never give this to like a Mario, right? But like somebody makes arguably a better Mario, and like what I would say like feels like the point of video gaming. Like it's just pure, unadulterated like joy, like simple, straightforward, a little bit self-indulgent joy. Like it's nice to see that kind of game in this day and age walk away with that award. I'm not naive enough to think that like every outlet's gonna do that, but like it was nice to see the Game Awards do it, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if actually they do end up getting like the mass appeal, like the wide range. of votes for that because I mean Zelda's won it, right? That's pretty
Sure.
kind of. And what was the It Takes Two. That won that one year. And it was like, did that just split the vote so many times that won it? I
I
don't know.
mean, by that logic, Balatro should have won it this year. I mean, I just think that was a bad choice. To be honest.
Yeah.
Still haven't played it, so I guess maybe I shouldn't be so judgy. But
I really like Balatro. I don't think it's a game of the year. Like or even should even been nominated, really.
yeah,
But what else is there this year? Not much.
yeah, and that's the thing is like, you know what would have been amazing if Nintendo wasn't so stupid was like, how about you put your worldwide Switch trailer announcement, like even
Right in
just like even do like the whole just silhouette of the console like they did with the Wii back in the day. Like that's all they would have to do, like a shitty JPEG, like because they're there, right?
Yeah.
They have all the info.
Xbox should have done the same thing. Like just showed a shadow of like a Switch looking thing and then just said this is an Xbox.
Yes. It is rumored that they're working on it, which
Yeah.
makes perfect sense at this point. To be honest, like if the Switch 2 is powerful enough, there's no reason I shouldn't be able to do xCloud on that thing. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know why the Game Awards keep going, but I did sit through a good chunk of it.
That Naughty Dog game looks pretty good, although it just screams Guardians of the Galaxy so much. Like it wants to be that so much, but Uncharted was just Indiana Jones, so I guess whatever.
Right. To me, it almost felt like a little bit back to like a Nathan Drake or Jack and Daxter sort of vibe, which is kind of their bread and butter, right? Like that's what they're good at. So, and I would like to see them do something that's a little less heavy than The Last of Us.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. It was such a weird year for the Game Awards and the announcements, but nothing like there wasn't a lot I felt like people saw coming, right? Like I mean, there was the few things that people were like, "Well, we're getting this trailer," but I feel like there's a lot of like out of left field stuff.
Yeah, there was. I mean, and it is all like callbacks to old stuff, which is kind of weird. I mean, even like Ninja Gaiden and Double Dragon, and it's like,
yeah, what the fuck?
Are we? What are we doing?
That? Right.
I don't.
Like, I think most people can agree that like Double Dragon Neon was kind of neat, but like, I swear there was a Double Dragon like sprite based thing like last year, and like, wow, we don't need to make it a thing. Like anyone who remembers gave up on it long ago. You know what I mean? I don't know. Forgot about that. That looked. Awful.
I don't know if any of that stuff like pulls it in.
No.
Because I mean, realistically, how many people have played Okami in the first place?
Right.
Like that's
nobody played it, and then they got popular because it's Resident Evil with swords, and now it's like flexible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Also, I had no idea there was a Pokemon Go Monster Hunter game.
Oh, yeah.
This must not be very popular.
Yeah, probably not here. I mean, that's the other thing. There's so many ads in this thing of games that are like, oh, I do never want to touch that thing with a 100-foot pole. But
so, what is the secret levels thing that you're referencing then?
So it's an Amazon Prime series, of animated shorts based on video game franchises. And they're usually only like 10 or 15 minutes long or so. And I've only seen maybe 5 of them. The ones that really like I resonate with, I guess, because there's a lot of like Warhammer and stuff like that I don't really care about. But started out with the Mega Man one, which was all right, but it was just kind of like a high res, kind of like realistic Dr. Light and Mega Man. And then he gets the Mega Man suit and then it ends. So it's like, well, what was the point of this? There was nothing real storytelling in it at all other than just seeing what it could be, like what that world could be. I don't know. Then I watched the Pac-Man one, and that one is I don't even really know how to describe it. It's like the Matrix, and Pac-Man is trying to escape this hellhole maze, this terrible wasteland,
Yeah.
and using clones to as the avatars to try and get out. And it's extremely graphic, extremely violent, really bloody. It freaked my kids out quite a bit. And I'm like, oh, this is Pac-Man. I guess I expected this not to be like this, but here we are. So after I watched that, then that trailer for that video game made a lot more sense, because it's like, okay, they're doing like this demonic Pac-Man thing. I don't know.
Somebody's taking the source material way too far. Yep. It reminds me, it's like the Minority Report, like a 30-page like noir story turned into whatever the fuck that Tom Cruise thing. Yep. How do you get that from that? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. But some of them are interesting, but a lot of them are just so short that there's nothing really.
Almost more proof of concept than anything. Yeah, substance.
Like there's a Spelunky one, and it's like, well, it's just, I don't get the point of this.
Sure.
This it's almost just like they did it because they could. There's one at the end, the last episode, which is that one is kind of neat. It's like a whole bunch of PlayStation properties all mixed into one thing. So that one's a lot of fun. But
like Astrobot?
I think they show up, yeah. I want to say the evil Astrobots, whatever those are.
I hadn't heard anything about that. Is that like pretty new, like dropped this year? Or?
I think it was like last week or something they came out, yeah. But it's weird. I don't know. I don't get the point of it. I mean, most of it doesn't seem like it's hardly even a story, when it's like 9 minutes long.
Sure.
What can you even do?
Right. It's cool that they would give like money to somebody that would like invest in the, medium, since they abandoned gaming on their own rights.
Yeah.
But I guess they're throwing money at Mr. Beast too, so who knows?
Oh, I saw that. Yeah. Because he needed help figuring out how to do like game show type videos. So
isn't this like the thing that's getting him like lawsuit? Well, other lawsuits too, but like conditions on this Amazon show are apparently like a big, or some people brought it forward. I don't know.
Huh.
He's been having a rough like quarter.
Yeah.
For the largest YouTuber on the planet. Well, one of them. Mm-hmm. The only other thing I had was, I don't know if you recall, like probably 10 years ago now, there was a iOS and Android game that came out called Dumb Ways to Die. It was basically like freeware, like WarioWare, where you're just like, here's a scenario, solve it so somebody doesn't die. I played that quite a bit back in the day, but they turned it into a card game recently.
Okay.
I bought that at Target, and that has been like kind of taking over the house. My son not as into it, but me and the girls for sure. It's basically like a deck, single deck game. Last to be alive wins. A little bit of a battle mechanic based around a paper rock scissors strategy, but it's with the game that it's based off of and the name of it, it's mostly just like controlled chaos. Like you're just trying to like weather your way through this thing. But there's a lot of like negativity and like mean spiritedness that comes with it, and like it digresses pretty quickly around my household. Like somebody pisses somebody off, then you're like fuck you, like everything I've got going at you, like I'm just gonna take you down, which generally is like between me and my wife. So like my daughter and my wife will play like friendly with each other, and like my wife and I were just like nah, like it's all going at you, and then like inevitably I get screwed over. I think I've won one game out of like dozens at this point because they just gang up on me. And it's a very fun game though, very fast. I would say, I don't know how many people can play it, like 2 to 5 I think. I would say a game will last, depending on luck of the draw, anywhere from like 10 to 25 minutes. If you go beyond that, it's pretty there's a lot of games where you don't get to a deck reshuffle even. Like it just goes that fast, especially if you're playing aggressively. But
Yeah, and especially if you know what you're doing, I'm sure it goes pretty fast too.
yeah, yeah, and it's just a lot of the artwork from that first original game. I think there's like 4 of them now, but it's just all the death sequences and stuff. So
Huh. Yeah, I have seen that game. I haven't tried it myself yet.
yeah, I want to say like they ask 20 for it, but like we get it on sale for half that. I'd say it's worth $10.
Okay. Hmm.
Yeah, pretty good one. Pretty popular. We'll be playing it more over the holidays, I'm sure. Devastating effect. So
As long as
Well-
it turns into like fights outside the game, then it's a problem, right?
oh, it usually does. Yeah, like my wife and I hold grudges. Like,
Yeah.
well, we keep getting into arguments about. So there's a card. So we get into a big argument about this one because we played 2 games back to back. There's a card that asks you to switch cards with the player to your left. And there was a scenario where somebody played that card, and I already. It's possible to have no hands in your deck. Keep in mind, somebody else played this card, so obviously the natural flow would be the person to your left. If they have no cards, you get no cards, right? Like that's the game. But then the game later, I played that card, and then the rule is very specific about how if this is your last card that you're playing, the person that would be drawing from you to your left gets nothing. Like because I can't play this hand, take my card going first as the dealer, and then hand it away, right? So
Yep.
that blew up. Like my wife couldn't comprehend the difference in the scenarios to the point where like I'm pretty sure she still thinks I'm bending the rules to suit my needs, but I'm like, no, like read the rule book. She's like, it was the same thing. I'm like, no, different scenarios. So yeah, it's been causing problems and drama outside the game. But she thinks I'm a dirty, rotten cheater, and just read the rules, man. So, yeah, it's fun.
Well, if you get murdered, I guess that would be a pretty dumb way to die.
Yeah, somebody didn't flick piranhas away from my ding dong fast enough.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. Well, curious on this one. Should we get to staff picks?
Yeah.
What is yours? You have to go first.
Okay. So this is a indie game that I got on Steam from some fanatical bundle. Thanks, Rob. 2D and Top D, it's called. It's a kind of a puzzle pixel platformer.
Okay.
Where you control 2 different characters, and the gimmick is that you switch between the characters that you're controlling, and it stops time for the other one. And I guess the main gimmick is one of them is on a 2D plane, and the other one is like a top-down isometric. So every time you switch, the game physics or whatever turn into like a 2D side scroller type game or a top down like box pushing
Okay.
game. So a lot of the game is like you can imagine, there's a lot of boxes around. One guy has to jump from the left, the 2D guy has to jump, all the way to the left to the right
Sure.
over a pitch or something. So you're basically like jumping with that guy and then stopping in midair. And then with the other guy moving the box, pushing the box over underneath him, that type of thing.
Sure.
But also sometimes the box like falls down, because it's just hanging in the air sometimes then too. So it's yeah, it kind of wears out its welcome after a while because it doesn't add a whole lot of new mechanics after a while. But that main thing it seems pretty fresh to me.
Is it like a single screen like puzzle or okay?
Yep.
I was gonna say like that could be ridiculous, like if you have to traverse like multiple screens. But
No,
That makes
it's
more
mostly
sense.
all on the same. It's kind of looks like like a Super Meat Boy type thing.
sure.
But yeah, you're switching between the 2 characters and the planes that they're existing on.
So a little bit of like Baba is you elements, but instead of like phrases, the other person's like crafting the world and
Right. Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I could see how that would get you ahead at some point where you would be over that.
Yeah. For the most part, it did get into one thing that I did enjoy was there's enemies. So when there's enemies on the 2D plane, they're just going left to right or whatever. But once you switch to the top-down view, then they chase after the person that's, just running around Zelda-like, right?
Oh, gotcha.
And then you switch it back and they all fall from the sky.
So you can use that to set them up to their own demise to some extent.
Yep, yep. So you can like move them around to a pit or something like that you want to throw them in.
That's
So
pretty cool.
Yeah, that's kind of fun.
Yeah, it sounds like a fun one. I had never heard of that.
I want to say I looked it up. It's $20, which seems a little high for this type of game, but I'm sure it goes on sale.
Paid for the whole bundle, huh?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I'm gonna have to keep an eye on that one. I saw I had like a weird, for whatever reason, I was logging into Steam today to look, and I have like they must just arbitrarily like throw credits at people, but I think a $5 credit balance. For what I don't know in my wallet, so I have to buy something.
Yeah,
I can find any number of games for next to nothing.
Yeah, I'm sure their Christmas sale is going to start pretty soon.
Yeah, they were already clearancing out a bunch of bundles. I saw a lot of the usual, the Resident Evil and that stuff. It's always on sale. Capcom.
Yep.
Well, mine, I won't spend a whole lot of time going into detail, but continuing with my movie theme, we watched Saturday the 14th, which is a movie that I had never heard of. And then they did a Svengoolie double feature, and we turned it off at like the first 5 minutes of the double feature because we were tired. But I went back and watched it the next day on Roku because it's streaming for free. I think it's also on YouTube for free. But basically, this came out in 1981, so like a year after Friday the 13th. And they totally just stole the name, all the marketing's like, well, you thought Friday the 13th was bad. It gets so much worse on Saturday the 14th. And it's a movie that follows a family moving into, a quote unquote cursed house that they're left by their family member or whatever. And it's one of those movies that is great because it knows exactly what it is. It is not taking itself seriously as a horror movie, and it knows it's super campy and super cheesy and blasting fun at the genre. So it's not just oh, it's so funny because they made that so bad. They made it bad to make it funny, and it's great. And it follows this family who find this cursed book, and it's unleashing all these monsters, and even at the start of the film, Dracula, or they don't call him Dracula, but he's Dracula, is showing up to the house because there's something of value in there, which is causing all the mayhem. And you got a young son who stumbles across the artifact, a teenage daughter who of course gets naked into a bathtub because it's the 80s. And then the mother, who is a typical 80s mother, falls victim to some of the stuff. And then the dad character plays this perfect deadpan, completely oblivious and stupidly happy about everything, even though all chaos is breaking around him all the time. And he's just oh well, nobody else could be here. It's just us. You know what I mean? And and then it just gets dumber and dumber to the point where they introduce Van Helsing, and then it all escalates to the point where at the end of this movie, there is a sequence that goes on for probably 3 minutes between Van Helsing and Dracula, where it's just a funny face making contest shot, individual cam back and forth at each other. And then they're opening their mouths in weird ways, or fog horns are coming out and train sounds. And my wife's what is happening? I was genius, genius is happening. This is perfect. And it's the most absurd, fucking hilarious thing I've ever seen. I can't believe I've never heard of this movie. I actually think it's one we should watch for David Crane at some point, because it is just that fucking amazing and awful at the same time.
Oh, I'm all aboard on this. So is it? Yeah, when I read it Saturday the 14th, that was the immediate thing that it was oh, this is Naked Gun
Yeah.
version of like Friday the 13th or something. Yeah.
Well, and it's got like a 10% on Rotten Tomatoes, but that is so wrong. Like this is such a good cult classic. Like it's bad, but it knows it's bad, and that's why it's
Mhm.
amazing. So yeah, we might have to make that our next one. We'll have to decide after we record here. But and I found out later on that it got a sequel in '88 called the Saturday the 14th Strikes Again, which I also think somebody's uploaded to YouTube. So I'm gonna have to check that out too.
Sunday the 15th is right there.
Oh, that'd have been perfect. Maybe somebody will
Mhm.
reboot that. Yeah, I found this thing for free on Roku. It's on YouTube for free with ads. If you have any passing interest in like this sort of like camp, highly recommend. Laughed my ass off, loved it. It's there's a great scene too where the wife becomes possessed and like Van Helsing shows up and like invites himself into the home. He's just like walking through with the husband, and then like the wife comes to the top of the stairs, sees Van Helsing and like screams like bloody terror and runs away. He just looks back at the husband and was like, "Oh, that's your lovely wife, I see." And then they just like continue on their conversation. Like this is totally normal. It's so great. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I've never heard of that.
No,
Wow.
I hadn't either. So yeah,
Huh.
check it out. Well, I guess might as well get to the weekend rental as much as I don't want to, but all right. So the weekend rental, as always, we pick a game for a given system. We'll play it, give our opinions as to whether we would personally buy, rent, or burn that game. By burn, we mean light it on fire. We're visiting my favorite console of choice, the Nintendo 64, and we're talking about Shadow Man, made by Acclaim. I think it came out in 1998 for the 64. It was also on PC, and I think it made it to PlayStation in 99.
Dreamcast, I think too.
Dreamcast. I think you're right.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. I guess it's based on like a comic book franchise.
Oh, really?
That I'm not aware of. But you play as like a, I don't know, half living, half dead, like voodoo New Orleans sort of style character who is tasked with going to explore the dark side or dark side, the city, which is just like the city of death, I guess, which is now being overrun because Jack the Ripper has decided to like kill himself and build a tower of pain. For some reason was the loose plot I got. Here's the thing. This type of game was very prevalent. You know, the third person perspective, like more gritty, mature content, like Demons, Souls. This is basically Legacy of Kain, but on the 64. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. What's frustrating with that is as much as I love Legacy of Kain, those are games that have not. Well, speaking of Game Awards getting remastered, Legacy of Kain, but those are games that like you don't necessarily want to revisit because while they pushed the hardware to the limit at the time, and they were incredibly popular genres and styles of games that made good use of the hardware limitations, they were also the blueprint for 3D gaming and adventure games in an era where that all hadn't been figured out and we didn't have dual stick controls. So like instantly you're going back into just like muddied, shitty textures. No fog. I'll give the game the credit on that.
Yeah.
No fog for instance. Like incredible game engine. But like the type of controls you would expect where virtually every action's on one analog stick, auto aiming. It's not some like they're best left as like great memories. They're not things you want to play in 2024.
Yeah. They remastered this.
Mm-hmm.
So like somebody thought they want to play this.
And that got good reviews too. So did the 64 version. The 64 version got acclaimed reviews.
Yeah. Which it starts out, I mean the voice acting, the amount of voice samples in a 64 game is crazy.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's got decent graphics. Yeah, the textures aren't great.
No, they're bad.
But and it's a little bit probably more blurry. It's one of those probably trade-offs with the PlayStation. I'm sure the PlayStation is like, I can't imagine looking at that thing because I'm sure everything's waving around, like all the textures are going weird with that much stuff. But yeah, I got lost quite a bit in this game, trying to figure out where to go.
Yeah, it is not linear. That to its credit, they give you a lot of
Yeah.
options. I mean, it's not GTA like open world, but there's a lot of paths that are available to you right away.
Yeah, and it's Zelda-ish, I
Yeah.
guess. Maybe like Metroid. I mean, you need a thing to get.
Yeah.
You need an item or something or a power up to get to certain areas, right?
Yes.
Which I didn't get far enough to really explore that. But that's kind of cool to have different, like a hub world.
Yeah.
But it doesn't give you any map. It doesn't let you do anything. It doesn't tell you where to go. There is nothing going on in this game.
And a lot like Legacy of Kain, it's got like the light and dark world, like where if you die, you don't die, you just go into like dead side, and you know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's neat to see.
Yeah.
It doesn't help when like a lot of they like again, probably a limitation of the hardware is like areas are generally using the same color palette to texture virtually everything. So you like that doesn't help with your confusion on where to go. And I don't think there's not a map, right? Like there's not like a map.
No, I don't think so.
Where you're at. So
yeah, that would have helped a lot. But yeah, I think that was the main thing, especially in the first open area. You're just kind of like everything is kind of brown, so you can't really tell where you're going. There's a lot of like bridges going over places you've already been and paths to the left and the right, and you're just not quite sure where you've been and where you're supposed to go, especially if you keep dying.
Right.
And then coming back. I will give them credit. Although it does start you at the beginning of where you were, it does record what you've killed. So it does not respawn new things, which
Still
is
not great though.
No.
And why can't there be that rewind feature for 64 games?
Yeah. I don't know why they don't do that. I think emulators can do that. So I don't know why the Switch can't do that. But
that might be one of the things that like frustrated me with this game too, is like, as we've talked before, the N64 controller mapping to Switch controllers that they've chosen for a lot of these games are just really frustrating and counterintuitive. Like every time I accidentally nudge the right stick, I don't need my inventory menu to pull up and like take me out of the game. I shouldn't have to flick that stick again to close it. Like, it's not a good feel.
Yeah, it's and I want to say like I kept there's that teddy bear that's in your inventory, and that's like how you warp to different places.
Sure.
So I would like accidentally hit that and then like instinctively press B or whatever the cancel button should be on a controller. Right. But not in this game. It's like, no, you're going.
You gotta flick it again. You don't want to click it. Flick it, don't click it.
Yeah, it is definitely a product of its time. I was impressed for the 64 version at least.
Yeah, even I had to give nod to like draw distance and like backgrounds. Like even when the levels were like muddy and like ugly, like if you got to a point where you got to see like scenery and like backdrop, it looked pretty damn good. I'll give it that.
Yep. Yeah, I think I made it to the point where I found the Necronomicon, and then I was like, well, I don't know what to do after this. So
yeah, I mean, for me, it peaked at Snake in a top hat. But
yeah, that guy was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was like straight out of Tim Burton. Did you have the same graphical glitch that I had in that opening scene where he's waking up next to his girlfriend, and for whatever reason, like it just like rendered his ass wrong, and like basically like he had the biggest like honky tonk badonk donk ever. Like Shadow Man basically looked like he had like a bread loaf in his pants. Like it was
no, I don't think I saw that. That's
definitely
good.
Was not supposed to be like that, and I'm chalking it up to emulation. But I was like, damn, Shadow Man.
I did see like there were some like textures were not closing all the way, like some whatever was going on. Something was going on with the emulation that wasn't quite right. But
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like this is kind of what I expected it to be. I think the thing that sucks is like it's just like when you know what you're in for, and then like right away, like the gameplay is not engaging because like, all right, like I'm gonna run around, like stuff's gonna come up, and it's gonna auto aim. Then I'm gonna have to hit the same button 8 times to like kill one zombie, and then rinse and repeat. And like, I granted, like I'm looking at it, hindsight 2020, I would have loved that back in the day. Like that would have been engaging for me, right? But I was pretty much like instantly turned off. Not to mention that I'm going in already pissed off because I'm playing it on the 64. So like I was
oh
just like,
yeah,
I don't want to do this to begin with.
yeah,
I'm gonna try here, and I like the world. I think the world is really cool. I just
they
think
swear
like,
on a Nintendo game.
yeah, like yeah, and what to watch a dude impale himself in like the first like 2 minutes of the 64 game
Yep.
too was pretty awesome. Like he was just like all about that too. Like no second thought. You mean I have to die? All right. But yeah, to just instantly fall into like that gameplay loop. But it is cool to see something like this, which is like a super gritty, like ocarina of sorts on 64. When the 64 didn't have a lot of this going for it, like I'd imagine this is like a breath of fresh air for like a lot of people.
Yeah. So it was super surreal that like, you're dropped in this world. You have no idea how anything works basically,
Mm-hmm.
or what anything does, where you're supposed to be, what characters are, what enemies you're supposed to be fighting or anything.
Yeah.
And then all the dialogue is like talking about Dark Souls in like capitalized Dark Souls, and they're like enunciating and like it's the joke, like the butt of the joke, like get it, we're referencing Dark Souls, and it's like are we sure this game came out before Dark Souls? Because
Yeah.
it seems like they're jabbing at that genre.
Yeah, it is funny too, like how much they do not hold your hand. Like they don't explain to you what any of the collectibles are from the get-go. I mean, you get into stuff, but like there's no reason as to why you're collecting any of it. Like you don't really know what controls your health. They don't elaborate that like maybe just pushing on a wall or a door will open it. It's all just expecting you to like be a gamer and just like test everything to make sure it's
Right.
gonna work. You know what I mean?
It
Which
took
is
me a while to
cool.
even figure out how the gun worked.
Yes, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I was in that area forever with those damn Rottweilers, like in that
Oh
like
yeah.
outside that church. I was like, where do I go here? Until I finally just like walked into the door that I assumed I needed like a key or something to open. It's like, oh no, it just swings open. Like this is great. Like thank you. Yeah. Yeah. I think my biggest takeaway was just like I felt like I was playing a claims answer to Eidos's Soul Reaver. Like it just very much felt like because those would have been right around the same time frame. So
Yeah.
I don't know which came first, maybe but like that was my first experience before this game. So like I just kept referencing everything to that.
Yeah.
Very similar in tone.
Yeah. For sure.
Well, what do you
Well,
think you would give this one then on the scale?
So we played an Acclaim game on the N64 on the show already. That being Turok.
Yeah.
And this is I would play this a million times over Turok, even though there's more action maybe in Turok. This game is even for how little it tells you what to do, it's way better to play. So I think I have to give it a rent. If it had like even some sort of like breadcrumb or mini map or something on the to kind of guide me to go somewhere, I think I probably almost would buy this game, especially for 64.
Yeah.
Like if we're talking about the PlayStation 1 version, maybe not, but in the context of 64, I think this game was pretty good overall. It's just like you said, it's tough to go back to.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm right with you. I would give it a rent. I think its biggest crime probably these days is just like it is not a control style or gameplay style or graphical style that ages well and is conducive to enjoying now. But yeah, fundamentally, I had no problem with what the game was doing or the action. Like, I mean, yeah, it was kind of fugly and like it didn't control great, but like it was still a game that I was progressing through. Well, you know, I was fighting it a little bit because of its age. It's perfectly fine. I would give it a
Yeah.
rate, and I agree. Like back in the day, had I played this probably would tip more towards a buy for me. I mean, it really does remind me so much of Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver.
Yep.
And I like the world they've got it set in. You know, like that's a good stupid video game world. You know, like good, evil, heaven and hell, demons. Like you can do whatever you want. That's perfect fodder for a video game.
Yep. Some like Bayou guy who's
Yes.
tortured enough to like have to save the world due to whatever thing he's cursed with. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And like just the clarity of like the open segments and like seeing what a 64 game could look like without fog, which I read a little bit because I was like clearly like maybe that's just like the emulation, but like apparently like no, it was some I forget it has a name, whatever engine it was, like a Void engine or something
Hmm.
developed for this game to like make that a thing. So pretty cool. That's as high a praise as you're gonna get from me on a 64 game on this podcast. I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, I mean, even the platforming in there was not terrible for like a third person, like weird shooting action game. I mean,
Yeah,
it's no Mario, but
You had to adapt to like the 20 frames per second like delay with jumping, but other
yeah.
than that,
Yeah.
yeah, it felt pretty good. Just over the shoulder action games before you had a camera control stick. Well, in this one, to his credit, this game has one kind of, but it is beyond pitiful. I don't even really know what some of those angles were intended to be used for. Maybe as we'd have gotten later in the game, there'd have been reasons, but
Oh, yeah.
like just like the weird like 3/4 pitching left and right. Like,
Yeah.
why would I use that as the player? I don't understand.
Yeah. Just a good, like, yeah, a third person strafe in this game would have been,
Yes,
you know,
in a roll,
yep,
a dip, duck, dive, dodge. You know,
all of those.
you can
They
dodge
would
a
have,
wrench. You can dodge a ball.
they made it, they had to have made a video game out of that movie, right?
Somebody has to, yeah.
I mean, there's a Balls of Fury video game. How is there not a dodgeball game?
Is there really a double Balls of Fury?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wii or
There's
what?
a Wii game.
Okay,
Yep.
yeah, that makes sense now. That probably sold better than the movie, sadly.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, this was kind of a quick one, but I guess that's
Yeah.
an episode.
Yeah, I think that's gonna do it for us. I heard rumblings that we have a Blue Sky account.
Oh yeah, we do. What is it? I think we're like the only weekend rental on Blue Sky. So take that, Craig, you son of a bitch, or Greg. So yeah, I don't really like we're at weekend rental .bsky.social, which I don't know why Blue Sky has like the weird dot stuff at the end. We're the only weekend rental on Blue Sky.
You'll find us.
Has our same logos and everything. It's just Weekend Rental Podcast. I'm not really sure what's going on Blue Sky yet. It seems like a lot of people have moved over, but it also seems like not a lot's happening. I don't know. We got like 30 followers over there. We'll see what happens. But
Okay.
we're there.
I haven't even moved over there yet, so
yeah,
I should.
It's another
It's fine.
Twitter.
Yep.
But not owned by, at least as far as I know, a giant billionaire oligarchic piece of shit. But or
Not
the greatest guy ever. I don't know. Depends on how much you like the Doge department of the United States government. So.
Yeah. I guess we're on Twitter still. I mean,
Sure
I
there, yeah.
don't know for now, but yeah.
I'll continue to cross post. I just probably won't engage as much on the other one.
Yep. Yep. Also check out the Geekade Patreon and all the the cool podcasts that are kind of on the same network as us. If you like what we do, gonna have a lot of crossover, that's for sure. And our email is weekendrentalpodcast@gmail.com. But you know what? Until next time, be kind, rewind.